Hello everyone, welcome to Coding with Ivan, and in this video we're going to make a wallpaper application for Android where the user can see various types of wallpapers and they can download them and also set them as their device's wallpaper from the app. So let me show you the app first. If I open that, it will load some random images for wallpaper. Alright, and we can also click on these two buttons here to go to the next page and the previous page like this. Alright, and we can also perform a query or a search query by clicking here. So let me do a quick query here. So if I type nature and click on search, so it will load the wallpapers under the category nature. Okay, so let's search rain now. Okay, we can also search anything, like if I search for car, here you go. Alright, and now let's select any wallpaper from here. Let me select this one. It's loading the image in the new activity, and from here we can perform two tasks, like we can download that image by clicking on this button, and we can also save that image. So let me at first let me show the download option. So if I click on this download button, it says download complete. Okay, so let's go to our gallery, and here as you can see we have this image. All right, and now let's try setting the wallpaper. As you can see, this is my default wallpaper now. So if I go into the app and click on this this button, so then it will set this car image to our device's wallpaper. So let me click. It says wallpaper applied, so let's minimize, and here as you can see this image has been set to our device's wallpaper. All right, so let's get started and make this app. At first, as you can see, I have created a new project, and from here I'll select this empty activity, and then I'll give the name of this project as wallpaper X. You can give any name that you want. This is the package name, com.ivanimran.wallpaperx. I'll save this inside this location. I'll set the language to Java, and I'll choose the minimum SDK to 7. Okay, that will cover approximately 90% of the devices. Okay, so let's click on finish now. So it's loading. Alright, so our project is now ready. As you can see, here we have our Java class for the main activity, and the layout files are here inside this layout folder. Alright, so now let's get started, and to get the wallpaper images we are going to use an API. So let me show you the API first. So if I go into Chrome, so at first you have to browse this website called pexels.com. I'll give the link of this website in the description. So you have to visit that, and then you have to click on this join button right here. So now it's asking I want to download or I want to contribute. Okay, so here I'll click I want to download. Okay, and now we have to create a new account here. So let me quickly create a new account. Alright, so as you can see our account has been created, and now from here we have to go to here, and we'll click on this image and videos API. Alright, we'll click here. Alright, and here as you can see we can get our API key by clicking on here. So let's click here on this your API key. Okay, so it says before you get access to your API key, you need to confirm your email address. So let's quickly confirm our email address. So we have to just go to our mailbox that we entered while creating our account here, and we have to just confirm our account. So I'll quickly do that. Alright, so now I have verified my email address, and here as you can see the error message is now gone. So now I'll give a name to this project. So let me say Wallpaper X, and then we have to select a category. So let me select this personal use or just for fun. Okay, and then we have to explain briefly how we want to use this API for or the photos or videos. So here I'll just write some simple lines like and now we can also add the URL of our website, but I won't add that. And then we have to just agree to these terms and conditions. So I'll click on here, and then we'll click on generate API key. So it says that please lengthen the text to 50 characters or more, currently using 43. Okay, okay, let's add some more lines here. Educational purpose. Okay, now let's click on generate API key, and here you go. Here we have our API key. So we have to use this later. So I'll just copy this. You can just copy this and store it somewhere else because we will need that later. And then I'll right click on this, read the documentation of the API, and open that link on a new tab. So here we got the API documentation, and here as you can see we have two base URLs. One is for the photos and other one is for the videos. If you want me to make another video on this video API, you can comment down below. I'll try to make that also, but in this video we're going to work with the photos only because we're making a wallpaper app. So okay, let's go to our Android Studio. So here at first we have to manage the API calling. So for this we are going to use retrofit. So let's add the dependencies for retrofit first. So at first I'll go into this Gradle scripts. Inside this build Gradle we have to add the dependencies here. So from where we'll get the dependencies, don't worry, I'll provide the link of the dependencies that we need. At first we need the retrofit dependency, so I'll browse here. I'll give the link of these dependency in the description also. Okay, so from here this is the dependency that we need. I'll just copy this and go back to my Android Studio, and here I'll write implementation, and inside the quotation I'll paste that we just copied from the website. Okay, so this is for the retrofit. Now we have to do this, copy the dependency for JSON converter of retrofit. So here is this dependency. Let's just copy this and go back to Android Studio again, and under this I'll paste that. Let me zoom in so that you can see properly. And here instead of the latest dot version we'll just give this 2.9.0 or whatever it is for this retrofit 2. Okay, I'll paste it here. All right, and thirdly we'll need the Picasso library to show the images in the image view. So from here I'll copy the dependency for Picasso, copy this, go back to Android Studio and paste it under here. Alright, so now that you have copied all these three dependencies, you can click on sync now. Alright, so once the Gradle sync is done, we can close this and we can create a new class for our API calling. So here I'll click on this package name, I'll right click here and create a new Java class. I'll call this as request manager. All right, and inside this request manager I'll create a new object for context. So I'll write context, and then we'll create a retrofit object. So I'll write retrofit, I'll call this retrofit equals new retrofit.builder, this one, and then I'll write dot base URL, and here for the base URL we are going to pass this one which we got from the documentation. So I'll just copy this, get back to Android Studio and paste it here. Alright, and then I'll add the JSON converter. So I'll write add converter factory, and here I'll pass the JSON converter factory dot create. Okay, and finally I'll write dot build. Okay, and after that we have to create a constructor for this request manager class. So I'll right click here, click on generate and click on constructor, and from here I'll only select this context. We won't select the retrofit here, we'll only select the context. Okay, and we'll click on this OK button. So here we got this constructor for request manager. Alright, and now we are going to create some interfaces for the API calling. Okay, so at first I'll create a new private interface. I'll call this as call wallpaper list. Okay, and inside this we have to put the header and the endpoints that we need. So at first let's go to our API documentation again. So from here at first, okay, I'll go to these photos here, search for photos. Okay, so here if we click on this search for photos, we can see here we have this example request and the example response here. So let's keep it as it is. Alright, so as you can see here, at first we have to pass the authorization token as the header to our API, and then we have to call this URL, this URL. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's at first define the header file. So I'll just copy this. Okay, let's copy actually this part only, the authorization. Okay, I'll copy this and go back to Android Studio, and here I'll create a new annotation for header, and inside this I'll create a second bracket, and inside the body at first I'll pass except, then colon space application slash JSON. Alright, and then we'll pass the authorization. So I'll just paste the authorization that we copied from here, and then we have to pass the API key, and for the API key we'll use the key that we got here after creating the account. So I'll just copy this, okay, and get back to Android Studio, and here I'll add a semicolon, no, it's a colon. Okay, colon space and paste the key here. Alright, and we have to put a comma here, I forgot that. Okay, and that's it. So this is the header. So after that we have to define the endpoint of our URL, and if we see here we have the base URL till this v1 slash. So if we go to our browser inside the documentation, we have this part inside our base URL. So our endpoint is only this one. So I'll just copy this curated from here and go back to Android Studio, and here I'll create a new annotation for get, because this calling is a get method, and here inside the parameter, inside a quotation, I'll paste the curated here, and I'll add a slash here. Okay, and then we'll define our call method. So I'll write call for. Now inside this angle bracket we have to define the model for which we are going to get the response. So if we go to our API documentation, here you can see we have a example response. So we have to create a model class with the object similar to this one. So what I'm going to do is I'll open a new tab, and here I'll search for JSON to Java converter, and here we'll go to this website called json to c#.com. I'll click here. Okay, so it will convert JSON to Java. So now I'll just copy this whole JSON from here. I'll copy that, and I'll go to this website again, and I'll paste it here, and then I'll click on convert. So this is the converted class. Okay, so now I'll go back to my Android Studio, and I'll create a new model class here, and for all the models we are going to create a separate package for that. So I'll right click here, create a new package. I'll call this models, and now inside this models folder I'll create a new Java class. I'll call this as, let's say, curated API response. Okay, hit enter, and inside here we'll define all the objects. So let me go to the browser. At first I'll copy the objects from the class root. I'll just copy this one, copy, and go back to Android Studio and paste them here. Okay, so photo is a different class. So what I'm going to do here is I'll create another Java class. I'll call this as photo. Okay, and inside this photo class I'm going to copy all these objects that we got inside this public class photo. So I'll copy this, go back to Android Studio and paste it here. Okay, now we have to create another class for src. So I'll right click in the model, create a new Java class called src, and inside this src I'll copy all these objects which is under this class src. So I'll copy them and paste them here. Okay, so now as you can see it's done. If you get any error like this, you just have to click here and click on this import class, or you can also click alt enter to solve this. Okay, so now we got our objects, but we have to add some more things, like we have to create the getter objects. So I'll just right click here inside an empty space, click on generate, click on getter, and I'll select all these 4 objects and hit enter. Okay, so similarly I'll do it for the photo. I'll go down here, right click, generate, getter, I'll select all this and hit enter. For the src I'll also do the same, right click, generate, getter, select all this and hit OK. All right, now inside this request manager, this interface, for the call I'll pass here the curated API response that we just created. Okay, and I'll name this call method as get wallpapers. Okay, and I'll put the first bracket here, and inside this first bracket we have to put the queries that we need to make. So if we go to our documentation here, as you can see, for the parameters we have this page and the per page. So here the page is the number of the page that we want to show. By default it will get the first page, which is 1, and the per page is the maximum number of images that we will show in one page. Okay, so let me just add these parameters. So at first I'll copy this page. Okay, let's copy this from here. Okay, let's go to our Android Studio first, and here I'll give a query annotation query, and for the first one I'll pass page. Okay, and for the page I'll pass a string called page, and similarly the second one will be another query, and this time I'll call this as per page. So I'll copy this from here, go back, paste it here, and I'll call this string per underscore page. Okay, and then we have to put a semicolon here. Alright, so it's showing an error inside this header. That is because we have passed only header here. It will be headers. Okay, alt enter. Okay, alright, so now we have created our interface. We can minimize this now, and now we need to create a new method to access this interface from our main activity. So for this I'll create a new method here. I'll call this as public void get curated wallpapers, and here for the parameter of this method I'll pass a new interface or a listener. So for the listener I'll create another package here. So I'll right click here, create a new package. I'll call this as listeners. Okay, and inside this listeners folder I'll create a new Java class. I'll call this as curated response listener. Okay, and that will be an interface. So I'll click on this interface and hit enter. So this is the public interface curated response listener. Inside this I'll create two methods. First one will be the void on fetch, and inside this, inside the on fetch, let's pass the curated API response. I'll call this as response, and the second parameter will be a string which will be the message of the response. Okay, and the another method will be on error, and here I'll only pass a string for the message. Okay, so this is the interface. Now we can go to the request manager, and here we'll pass an object for this curated response listener. So I write curated response listener. I'll call this listener, and then we also need the page number from here. So I'll put another string for the page. Okay, let's keep this as page. Okay, so now inside this method body, at first I'll create an instance of this call wallpaper list. So I'll write call wallpaper list. I'll call this call wallpaper list equals retrofit dot create call wallpaper list dot class semicolon at the end, and then I'll make a call for the curated API response. I'll call this call equals, I'll get this object from here, call wallpaper list, this one, and then we can access this get wallpapers method. And as you know, for the get wallpapers method we have to pass two parameters. One is for the page and other one is for the per page, that we defined here, these two parameters. Okay, so at first here for the page I'll pass this string. Okay, and for the number of images per page, you can also get this from the parameter if you add, but I'll give a static number of 20 so that it will show 20 images per page. And if you check on the documentation, it will say the default value of this page number is 15. So so that means is if you don't pass any value on the per page, then it will return you 15 images, and you can pass a maximum value of 80 images per page. Okay, so in my example I am passing 20. All right, add a semicolon at the end, and then here I'll call this call object, so call dot enqueue, and here I'll create a new callback for the curated API response, and here we got the methods, the on response and the on failure. So at first inside this on response method we'll check for if our API response is not successful. So to check that, I'll write if we'll call this response object that we got from here. So I'll write here response dot is successful, and we'll add a not symbol here, so that will check for if the response is not successful. So if it is not successful, then we can show a toast message. I'll pass, at first I will pass the context, and then for the message I'll pass an error occurred. All right, and after that we'll just return from here. Okay, and outside of this if statement, if it's successful, then we'll call the listener dot on fetch, and here at the first parameter of the on fetch we have to pass the curated API response object. So I'll just call response dot body. Okay, and the second parameter is the message, so we'll set the response message from here. So I'll write response dot message. All right, so that's it for the on response method. Now inside this on failure we will just call the listener dot on error, and here we need to pass the message, which is a string variable. So for the message we'll get the string from this throwable, so I'll write t dot get message. Okay, so our method is now ready. Now we can go to our main activity, and here we'll start our UI designing. So for the UI, at first I'll go to our activity main.xml file here. So let me zoom in and minimize this. Okay, we'll keep it here. Okay, and from here I'll change the parent layout to relative layout, and here I'll just remove this text view and I'll add a recycler view here. I'll set its width to match parent and the height to, let's say, also match parent. Okay, I'll close this tag, and I'll give the ID of this recycler view to recycler underscore home. Okay, so that's it. Now we can create a custom layout for our recycler view. So for this I'll right click on this layout folder, create a new layout resource file, and I'll call this as home underscore list. Hit enter, go to this split view, and inside this I'll change the parent layout to card view, and I'll change the height of this card view to wrap content from here, and we'll also add some more attributes like the card elevation to 8dp and the card background color to color let's say white, and then I'll give this card view a margin of let's say 4dp, and let's also add a margin to our activity main inside this recycler view. I'll give this a margin of 4dp also. Okay, so let's get back to our home underscore list.xml, and here I'll give this card view an ID also. Make sure you also add that. So for the ID I'll pass home underscore list underscore container. Okay, and now inside this card view I'll just simply add a image view. I'll set its width to match parent, and for the height I'll pass 250 dp. Okay, you can pass anything like 200 or 150, any value that you want. I'm passing 250 dp here, and then I'll give this image view an ID. For the ID I'll pass image view underscore let's say list. Okay, so this is image view list, and inside here I'll pass the scale type to center crop from here. Okay, so now what we are going to do is I'll go to the main activity, and here we need to define the object for the recycler view. But before that, let's create a adapter class. So just minimize these models and listeners, and here I'll right click again in the package and create a new, let's create another package for the adapters, and inside this adapters package I'll create a new Java class. I'll call this as curated adapter. Okay, hit enter. So we got this public class curated adapter. Okay, now outside of this class we'll create another class for the view holder. So I'll create the class curated view holder, and I'll make this extends recycler view dot view holder. Okay, it's showing an error. If we click on this red bulb that it shows here, it will ask to create constructor matching super. So I'll just click on that. So here we got the constructor curated view holder. Now at first inside the class we have to create the objects for this custom layout. So inside this we have only two objects. The first one is the card view container, which is the home list container, and then the image view. So at first let's copy this container for the card view. So I'll just copy this ID from here. I'll go into this keyword adapter, and inside here I'll create a card view object. I'll call this as the name that we copied, and then we have an image view. So for the image views object name I'll copy this one, this image view list. Okay, I'm using the same name from this XML file because that is much convenient for me. You can use another name if you want. So now I'll go here after the super item view, and here we need to define the or initialize these objects of the card view and image view. So I'll copy this object name, I'll paste it here, equals item view dot find view by ID. Then I'll write r dot id dot, I'll paste it here. And if you get an error like this, just click on alt enter and click on this import class. Here you go. Okay, so similarly I have to do this for the image view also. So I'll copy this image view list, paste it here, equals item view dot find view by ID, r dot id dot image view list. Okay, so our view holder is now ready. Now we can minimize that, and we'll go to this curated adapter, and here I'll make this extends recycler view dot adapter, and inside this angle brackets I'll pass this curated view holder. So I'll write curated view holder here. Okay, and as you can see it's also showing an error. We have to click on this red bulb and click on this implement methods, and we have to select all of these three and click on OK. So here we got these methods, the on create view holder, on bind view holder, and get item count. So let's start from here at the beginning. So at first, in the beginning, I'll create an object for the context, and then for the list that we want to show here, and as we'll only show the photos here, as you can see, if we go to the example response, you can see that these photos is a list. Here we got only one object, but in our case we will get 20 objects like this. So we'll just need this photos list for our adapter. So I'll go here and create a list of photo, and one thing you have to be careful about is that while selecting this photo, you have to select the photo class of your package name, okay, not the other ones. So make sure to select the photo object of your package name, okay. And I'll call this list now. And we also need another listener for making the on click listener for our recycler view. So let's also create that. Inside these listeners, I'll right click, create a new Java class. I'll call this on recycler click listener, okay, and that will be an interface. Hit enter. So this is the on recycler click listener. Here I'll create only one method, which is on click, and here we'll pass the photo object. Okay, that's it. And now let's go to the curated adapter and create an object for this on recycler click listener. So I'll write on recycler click listener. I'll call this listener. Okay, and now under this, I'll right click here, click on generate, click on constructor, and we'll select all these three, click on OK. So here we got the constructor. Alright, so now after this constructor is done, we can go to our on create view holder, and here instead of returning null, we'll return a new curated view holder, and here we'll pass the layout inflator dot from, and inside the parameter of from we have to pass the context, and then outside I'll write dot inflate, and here we'll pass the layout file. So I'll write r dot layout dot this home list that we created right here. Okay, and after this, the second parameter is the parent, and the third parameter is false. Alright, so our on create view holder is done. Then we'll work on this on bind view holder. Okay, so for the on bind view holder, we'll show the images inside our image view of this home list. So to load the images from the URL, we are going to use Picasso library here. So I'll write here Picasso dot get dot load, and inside the parameter of load we have to pass the URL. So we can get the URL from list dot get from position dot get URL. All right, and then we can also add a placeholder image. So let's click on the placeholder, and now for the placeholder image I'm going to use this image, and if you want to use this image, I'll give the download link of this image in the description. From there you can download this and use this. So I'll just copy this and go back to Android Studio, and I have to paste this inside the drawable folder. Okay, all right. Then now inside the placeholder I'll just write r dot drawable dot placeholder. Okay, and finally the last one is the dot into, which is the target uh, of which image view we want to show this image. So inside this dot into, I'll write holder dot image view list. Okay, so that will load the image inside the image view. All right, we don't need to do anything else here. Now we'll go to this get item count here, and here instead of returning 0, we'll return the list dot size here. Okay, so that's it. And now we can close this keyworded adapter, and finally we can go to our main activity, and here we'll define few objects here at our main activity class. So at first I'll define the recycler view. I'll call this recycler view underscore home, and then we have to pass we have to create another object for the curated adapter. So I'll write curated adapter. I'll call this as adapter, and then we need a progress dialog. So I'll write progress dialog. I'll call this as dialog, and then we'll also need an object for the request manager class, this one. So I'll write request manager. I'll call this as manager. Okay, so these are the 4 objects that we'll need. And now inside this activity main, at first let's initialize this progress dialog first. So I'll write dialog dot dialog equals new progress dialog, and we have to pass the context here, which is this, and then we have to set the title for this dialog. So I'll write dialog dot set title, and for the title I'll pass loading dot dot dot. Okay, and then we can create an instance of our manager. So let manager equals new request manager, and for the constructor we have to pass the context only. So I'll pass the context this. All right, and then we can call the get wallpapers method from this manager class object. So I'll write manager dot get curated wallpapers, and as you know, for the parameter we have to pass the listener and the page number. Okay, so let's create a listener first. So we have to go outside of this on create method. So I'll go outside here, and here we'll create a new listener. So I'll write private final it was a curated response listener. I'll call this listener equals new curated response listener, and here we got these 2 methods, the on fetch and the on error. The here it's showing an error because we have to put a semicolon here, and then inside this on fetch, at first we'll check if response dot get photos dot is empty. So if the photos is empty, then we will show a toast message with the context main activity dot this, and for the text I'll pass no image found. Okay, and then after that I'll just add return so that it gets out of this method. So if it is not empty, in that case we will just call a method show data or show images, you can say, and here we will pass the list of photo. Okay, so list of no, what am I doing? We have to just write response dot get photos. Okay, and this is showing an error because we haven't created this show data method. So we'll just click on this show data and click on this red bulb and click on create method show data, and I'll click on this main activity. So that will create the method right here. All right, So we'll work on this show data method later, but before that let's handle our on error also. So for the on error, we'll show another toast message with the context main activity dot this, and for the message I'll pass the message that we're getting from here. So alert message. Okay, and here after calling this get curated wallpaper for the parameter, now at first we can pass this listener that we just created. So I'll pass listener, and the second parameter is the page number. So initially we'll pass 1, okay, because when the user will open the app, the user should see the first page of the images. So I'll keep this 1. All right, and now we can work on this show data method. So inside this show data, okay, we only have this recycler view and adapter. Okay, so inside this show data, we'll initialize our recycler view. So I'll write recycler view home equals find view by id r.id dot recycler view underscore home. Okay, and then we'll write recycler view home dot set has fixed size to true, and we can also add a we have to add a recycler view dot layout manager, set layout manager, and I'll create a new grid layout manager because I want to show 2 images side by side. So here at first, the first parameter of the grid layout manager is the context. We can pass this here, okay, and then for the span count I'll pass 2 so that it shows 2 images side by side. If you want to show 3 images, you can pass 3 here, or if you want to show only 1 image, you can pass 1. In my case I am passing 2 here, okay. And then we have to initialize the adapter. So I'll write adapter, which we defined up here, adapter for the curated adapter. So I'll write adapter equals new curated adapter, and as you know, for the constructor the first parameter is the context, then we have to pass a list of photo, and then we have to pass the listener for the on recycler click listener. Okay, so let's do that. At first I'll pass the context, which is main activity dot this, and then for the list of photo we'll get that from the parameter of this method, which is the photos. So I'll pass photos, and the third parameter is the listener for this on recycler click listener. So we can do this by writing here implements on recycler click listener, and it will show an error because we have to click on this red bulb and click on this implement methods. We'll only select this one and click on OK. So here we got this on click method of the on recycler click listener. So now we can pass here the listener as this. Okay, so here it's done, and now only one thing is left, which is we have to attach this adapter to our recycler view. So I'll write recycler view home dot set adapter, and I'll pass this adapter here. All right, and now for the on click, okay, we can show a toast message. Okay, let's pass the constructor as main activity dot this, and for the text, as you can see inside the example response, inside the photos we have the width, height, and also the photographer name. So let's try to show the photographer name on the on click event. So here I'll write photo dot get photographer. Okay, that's it. And so this one show the photographer name on the toast message because we haven't added that inside our adapter. So for this we have to go to our curated adapter here, and here inside the on bind view holder we have to do one thing. We have to create a on click listener for the card view or the home list container. So I'll write holder dot home list container dot set on click listener new view dot on click listener, and here on the on click event we will call the listener that we created here, the listener object. So listener dot on click, and here we have to pass the photo. So to get the photo I'll write list dot get from holder dot get adapter position. Okay, so that will do the work. All right, so now our code is now ready. So let's try to run this, but before running you have to add the internet permission in your manifest. Most of the time I forget that and I end up with errors, so make sure you add that inside your manifest.xml file. You have to add users permission android.permission.internet, this one, and close this tag. Okay, so now we can run our application. So let me connect my phone. All right, and let's run our application from here. Okay, so as you can see our app is now installed, but we are not seeing the images. So that is because of a silly mistake, because if we go to the example response, here the URL is not exactly what we need to use to get the image. So to get the image we have to use this one, this original URL under this src. Okay, so there are many URLs for the original, for the large 2x size or the large size, medium size. You can use any one that you want. So in this example let's try to use the medium one, because that will be much smaller size, so that it will load in a very short time. So let's try to get that. So that's quite simple. We have to go to our curated adapter, and here instead of just passing this get URL, I'll pass get src dot get medium. Okay, that's it. Now let's run our app again. And here you go, we got all the wallpapers. We have 20 wallpapers inside this screen. All right, and if we click on any one of them you can see the photographer name here. So let's click on this one. Okay, so now let's try to do one more thing. Let's try adding two buttons to move to the next page and the previous page. Okay, that's quite simple. So let me quickly close all of them because it's looking very much cluttered. Okay, so we'll go to our main activity only, and we'll open the layout file of our activity main here, and inside here we'll create two floating action buttons. So here at first I'll create a floating action button, this one. I'll set the width to wrap content, height to wrap content, and this time I'll set its ID to fab underscore next, and here you can see the floating action button. So as we are using a relative layout, so I'll use some attributes to make this floating action button to here. So at first I'll write align parent to bottom to true, so that it gets attached to the bottom, and then we'll attach it to the end of the screen. Okay, so I'll write align parent end to true. Okay, and then we'll give this a margin of, let's say, 16 dp, so that it goes above here. Okay, so that's it. And we can also use an icon for this button. So for creating the icon, I'll right click on this drawable, create a new vector asset, and I'll click on this clip art, and I'll search here for arrow, and I'll use this one, the arrow forward. Click on OK. I'll name this as IC underscore next, and I'll keep its color to, okay, let's keep this black, and I'll click on next. Or you can also change the color of the arrow by clicking on here inside the color, and you can choose any color that you want. Okay, I'll be going with black. So here it is, and click on next and finish. So similarly, I'll create another vector asset for the previous. So I'll write here, okay, here we got the arrow back. Click on OK, and I'll write IC underscore prev, and click on next and finish. Okay, and here inside this I'll pass src at drawable slash IC next. So as you can see, here is a icon for the next. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just copying this one more time for the previous button, and this time I'll change its ID to fab underscore prev, and this time instead of align parent end, I'll write align parent start to true, so that it gets set here. And then I'll change the drawable icon, so I'll write IC underscore prev. Okay, so here as you can see, we have two buttons for the previous page and the next page. So now we can initialize them inside our main activity. So I'll copy the ID from here, the fab next, I'll copy this, and inside the main activity I'll define the button here. I'll call this as a floating action button fab next, and for the fab prev I'll copy the ID and paste it here. And then we have to create on click listener for this button. So I'll just copy the fab next first, and I'll go down here. Okay, not there, we have to create the on click listener inside the on create method. So I'll go inside the on create method just after this get curated wallpaper call. Let me zoom in. So here I'll write fab underscore next dot set on click listener new view dot on click listener, and here on the on click method what we're going to do is we're going to call the get curated wallpapers again. So I'll just copy this and paste it here, and this time let's do one thing. We have to increment the page number from the page number that we got from the API. So as you can see inside the documentation on the API response, we are getting the page number here. Okay, so let's try to store that page number. So how we can do that? You can create let's say an integer object called page. Okay, and then if we go inside the on fetch, before the show data I'll set the page that we created here, the int page. So page equals response dot get page. Okay, so that will store the page number inside this object. And now what we are going to do here is I'll write a string called next underscore page equals a string dot value of, and here I'll write page plus 1. Okay, and then we'll pass this next page to this parameter for page. So I'll write next page. Okay, so that should do the work. And also we can show the progress dialog. So I'll write dialog dot show. Okay, so similarly we have to create another object for the next button. So sorry, for the previous button. So let's do that. So I'll write fab underscore prev dot set on click listener, new view dot on click listener, and here inside the on click method we have to decrease the page number. But here is an issue, because if this is the first page and we click on the previous button, then according to our condition the page number will be 0, which will give us an error. So in order to avoid that, we can write a simple if condition here, that if page number is greater than 0, not greater than 1, in that case we will only perform the on click event. So if the page number is greater than 1, then we'll just get a string of prev page equals a string dot value of page minus 1. Okay, and then we'll call the manager dot get curated wallpapers, and we'll pass the listener and the prev page. Okay, and also we can perform the dialog dot show. Okay, so that will do the work. So now let's run this and see how it goes. Okay, okay, so it's showing an error. What is the issue? Floating action button fab next. Let's run this again. Okay, what's the issue here? Okay, so it says that attempt to invoke virtual method material floating action button surround click listen on null. Oh no, we forgot to initialize these floating action buttons. That's the issue. Sorry for that, guys. I'll just copy this fab next here, and I'll go after the set content view, and here I'll write fab underscore next equals find view by id r dot id dot fab next. Similarly I'll do for the fab prev equals find view by id r dot id dot fab prev. Okay, so now it will work fine. So let's run this, and here as you can see we got the wallpapers, and here is the previous and the next button. So let's click on the next button first. Loading. Okay, it's not dismissing. Okay, so let's see what's the issue now. Okay, we forgot to dismiss our progress dialog for the on fetch. So let's do that. Inside the on fetch we'll write dialog dot dismiss. For the on error let's do the same, dialog dot dismiss. Okay, so now let's run this again. Here we got the images. Let's click on next. It says loading, and this is the second page. Okay, let's click on next again. This is the third page. So now let's try to click on the previous one. So this is the previous page. Similarly this is the first page. Okay, so now if we click on previous, it won't work. Okay, all right, so our next and previous button is now working fine. Now we can create another method, so that whenever the user will click on the one of these images, it will create a new activity and show the image there, and from there the user can set the image as their device's wallpaper and also download that image. So let's do that. I'll go up here inside the package, and from here I'll create a new activity. I'll create a new empty activity, and here I'll set its name to wallpaper activity. Okay, hit enter. Let's give this some time to load, and once it's done, we can go to the activity the activity wallpaper.xml file first. Go to this split view, and inside here I'll change this constraint layout to a relative layout, and inside here I'll create a new image view. I'll set its width to match parent, height to match parent again. I'll give this image view an ID of image view underscore main. Let's write image view underscore wallpaper, image view underscore wallpaper. Okay, and the scale type to center crop here. Okay, and then under this image view we can create two separate floating action buttons for the download and the set wallpaper. So let's quickly do that. So at first I'll create a floating action button. I'll set its width to wrap content, height to wrap content here. I'll give this floating action button an ID. I'll call this as fab underscore download. Okay, and let's align this parent to bottom true, align parent end to true, and give this a margin of 16 dp. All right, and we can also show some icon inside this image view here, inside this floating action button here. So to create the icons, we can right click on the drawable, create a new vector asset, and from here at first let's create an icon for the download. So for the download I'll select this one, this icon, click on OK. I'll rename this to IC underscore download. I'll set the size to 24 and I'll set the color to black. Okay, keep everything as it is. You can change the color if you want, and I'll click on next and I'll click on finish. Okay, so now let's create another vector asset for let's see, for wallpaper. Okay, we have this one, so let's select that and click on OK, and I'll name this as IC underscore wallpaper. Click on next, click on finish. Okay, so at this one I'll set the src to IC, at the drawable IC underscore download. Okay, so this is for the download. Now similarly I'll copy this one more time under here, and this time I'll change its ID to fab underscore wallpaper, and this time instead of attaching this to parent end, I'll set this to left of the ID fab download. So okay, so what that will do is that will set the our fab wallpaper aligning to the left of this fab download. Okay, it's showing an error. Okay, what's that? We can use to start off. Okay, we can use that now to start off. Okay, and then we'll change its icon from IC downloads to IC underscore wallpaper. Okay, so that's it. So now let's do another thing. Inside our wallpaper activity, let's initialize the image view and the floating action buttons first. So let's copy this image view ID. I'll go inside this wallpaper activity. Inside this wallpaper activity class, I'll create a image view object with the name image view underscore wallpaper, and similarly for the floating action button, I'll copy this fab download here, and then for the fab wallpaper here. Okay, and now we have to initialize them inside the onCreate method. So inside the onCreate, at first I'll copy this image view wallpaper equals find view by id r.id dot image view wallpaper, and similarly for the fab download, I'll copy the fab download equals find view by id r.id dot fab download. Okay, and similarly for the fab wallpaper equals find view by id r.id dot fab wallpaper, this one. Okay, so it's now done. Now okay, so let's go to our main activity first. So here previously we were showing a toast message on the onClick event for the list items. So in this so now we'll just remove this toast message and we'll start a new activity. So let's start activity, and here I'll create a new intent from main activity dot this to main activity dot this to the wallpaper activity dot class. Okay, and here in between these two brackets I'll create a new line and I'll write dot put extra, and here I'll pass the data name to photo, and for the data we'll pass the photo that we got from here. Okay, so I'll write photo, but as you can see it's showing an error because we have to make our model class for photo serialized. Okay, so let's go to our models, insert the photo, and here on the public class photo I'll make this implements serializable. Okay, so we have to make them serializable in order to pass them through the intent. Okay, so it's serializable, but that's not the end because we have another object here which is the src. So I have to go inside the src and I have to make them you can also go to src from here and you can make them implements serializable. Okay, okay, so I guess that's it. String integer. Okay, so okay, that's it. Now as you can see the error is now gone. Okay, so now what it's doing is it's creating a new activity and passing the photo with the tag photo to the new activity. So let's go to our wallpaper activity and start and let's capture the photo from the intent. So for this, at first up here I'll create a photo object, and while creating the object make sure you use the photo object from your package. Okay, I'll call this photo. All right, and here I'll write photo equals get intent dot get serializable extra, and here the data name was, as you can see, it was photo. So I'll just copy this and paste it here and put a semicolon here, but it's showing an error because maybe we need to cast this. Yes, so we'll just click on this cast to this model, so that will cast this to the photo. Okay, so now we got the photo. So now we can show the image inside this image view. So I'll write Picasso dot get dot load, and what we want to load, we load the photo dot get src dot get original. Okay, and then I'll write dot placeholder. I'll pass the r dot drawable dot placeholder, and then dot into what, image view wallpaper. All right, so that will do the work to show the image inside the image view. Okay, so let's try to run this again at this point to see the changes. Okay, so these are the wallpapers. Now let's click on this one. It's loading, and yes, we got the wallpaper right here. Let's try another one. Let's try this one. Okay, we got the image here. So now we need to work on the on-click listener for these two buttons to save that image and to set the image as wallpaper. So let's do that. So in order to do this, we have to create on-click listener for the fab download and the fab wallpaper. So at first, let's work on the fab download. So here I'll write inside the on create method, I'll write fab download dot set on click listener new view dot on click listener here. So now inside the on click event of this fab download, we'll start our coding. So at first we'll create an object of our download manager. So I'll write download manager. I'll call this download manager. Let's initialize this to null here at first, and then I'll write download manager equals, I'll cast this to download manager, and I'll get the get system service, and here I'll pass the download service. So I'll write the context dot download service. Okay, and then we have to create an URI from the image URL. So let's do that. So I'll write URI, I'll call this URI equals URI dot parse, and from here we have to get the photo dot get src dot let's go with the large image. So I'll click on get large, so that will get the largest image or the large image. And then we have to create a download request. So for this I'll write download manager dot request, I'll call this as request equals new download manager dot request, and here on the parameter of the request we have to pass the URI that we created. So I'll pass URI. Okay, and now we have to execute the request. So for this I'll write request dot set allowed network types, and here we can allow downloading either from the Wi-Fi or the mobile data. So for this let's define the download manager dot request dot network Wi-Fi, and or we can also allow the download manager dot request dot network mobile. Okay, and then we can also set downloading over roaming to false. So I'll write set allowed over roaming to false, and then we can set the title of our image that we are going to download. So for the title we can pass let's say wallpaper underscore plus the photographer name. So we can get the photographer name by writing photo dot get photographer. Okay, and then we can set the MIME type. So I'll write dot set MIME type, and the MIME type here is image slash JPEG. Okay, and we can also add another tag to show the download on the notification. So for this I'll write set notification visibility, and I'll write download manager request visibility visible notify completed. Okay, so I'm passing download manager dot request dot visibility visible notify completed. So the download so it will show when the download is completed in the notification bar. Okay, okay, and go to the new line. Don't add semicolon here. Okay, go to the new line and add dot set destination external public directory. So now we have to define the directory where we want to download the image. So for the directory we will just pass the default picture directory or the image directory. So for this I'll write environment dot directory pictures, this one, and then we have to pass the subpath of the file. So we have to pass a title. So the title we passed here, the wallpaper underscore the photographer name, that will show inside the notification bar while we are downloading that image. We can also add that inside here. Okay, inside here. So we'll do that by writing wallpaper underscore plus photo dot get photographer plus dot jpg. Okay, now we can put a semicolon here. So that will now download our image, and to execute the download we have to just write our download manager dot enqueue, and here we have to pass our request that we defined here. So I'll write request. Okay, so that will start downloading our image, and after downloading we can show a toast message that our image is downloaded. So I'll write a toast message. For the context I'll pass wallpaper activity dot this, as our activity name is wallpaper activity, and for the text I'll pass download completed. Okay, so I guess that will do the job. Alright, so now let's try to run our application to see the changes. So I'll click on this run, and here as you can see we have our app with all the wallpapers. So now let's try to download this wallpaper, this one. So I'll open that. It's loading the image, and here it is. So now let's click on this download button, and it says download completed. So if we go to our notification bar, you can see it says wallpaper underscore Sena download completed. Okay, so let's go to our gallery to see if it really downloaded or not. So here as you can see we have the wallpaper. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's try another one to check. Let's go to the next page, and let's try to download this one. It's loading. Okay, nice. Now let's click on the download button. It says download complete. As you can see, wallpaper underscore blah blah blah. Let's go to the gallery, and here we have the wallpaper. Okay, so our download option is now working fine. Now we can start working on our set wallpaper. So in that case we have to create another one-click listener. So I'll write fab underscore wallpaper dot set on-click listener, new view dot on-click listener, and here inside the on-click event will work to set our image as wallpaper. So we have to just write few couple of lines, but before writing something here we have to add another permission to our manifest file to set or change our wallpapers. So I'll go inside the manifest, inside the Android manifest.xml here, and here where we defined our internet permission, I'll go right after that and I'll write uses permission, and here I'll set the permission for set wallpaper. Okay, this one, the Android permission, android.permission.set wallpaper. Make sure you add that to your manifest, otherwise you won't be able to change your wallpaper from your app. Okay, so now that we have added, we can go to our wallpaper activity, and here we'll start our coding to set the wallpaper. So at first here I'll create a wallpaper manager object. I'll call this as wallpaper manager equals wallpaper manager dot get instance, and here we have to pass the context. So for the context I'll pass wallpaper activity dot this. Okay, put a semicolon at the end, and then we have to create a bitmap. So I'll write bitmap, I'll call this as bitmap equals let's do one thing, we'll cast this into bitmap drawable, and we'll get the bitmap from the image view. So basically what we're doing here is we'll try to get the drawable file from our image view, and then we'll cast this into the bitmap. So let's do that by writing image view wallpaper dot get drawable. Okay, so now we got this as our bitmap drawable, but we have to cast this to bitmap. So to cast that we have to put this whole thing inside another first bracket. Okay, and then outside of this we have to write get bitmap. Okay, so that will return us the bitmap of this drawable file. Okay, so what is happening here is at first we're getting the drawable file from the image view, then we're casting this to bitmap drawable, and then we're casting this to bitmap, or getting the bitmap from this bitmap drawable. Okay, all right, now we can start setting up our wallpaper or the specific image as our wallpaper of our device. So here I'll create a try block because sometimes it might not be able to add the wallpaper. So I'll write wallpaper manager dot set bitmap, and here we have to pass this bitmap that we created. So I'll write bitmap here. Okay, so it's showing an error because we have to handle the exceptions. So I'll write catch, inside here I'll write exception E. As you can see, the error is now gone, and I'll write e dot print stack trace. We can also show a toast message here. For the context I'll pass wallpaper activity dot this, and for the text I'll pass let's pass couldn't add wallpaper. Okay, and after setting the wallpaper we can show another toast message that will say, okay, the context is wallpaper activity dot this, and for the text I'll pass wallpaper applied. Okay, so I guess that will work fine. So let's try running our application once again to see the changes. So I'll run this, and as you can see, this is the current wallpaper of my phone. So here we go. So now let's try to set this image as our wallpaper, this one, and let's click on this set wallpaper button. And as you can see, it says wallpaper applied. So now let's minimize the screen, and here as you can see, the wallpaper has been applied. So let's try doing another. Go back, let's try with this one. Click on set wallpaper, and it says wallpaper applied. Let's minimize, and here we go, we have the wallpaper. All right, so that's it. That's how we can set wallpaper of our phone from the app. And now one more thing is missing, that is the search operation to search for specific wallpapers. Let's also try to add that. I think the video is getting longer. Okay, let's add this on this video, no worries. So for this I'll just remove all or close all of these tabs, and I'll go directly to our request manager here, because for this search we have a totally different endpoint. So if we go to our documentation, as you can see, currently we were working on this curated photos, but now we'll work with the search for photos. Okay, so let's click on this search for photos, and here we have the endpoint. So previously we were using the endpoint curated, now we will use search. Okay, so let's quickly add that to our Android Studio. So we'll create another interface. So I'll just quickly copy this interface, and I'll change its name to let's say call wallpaper list search. Okay, and I'll keep the headers as it is. We don't need to change anything. And instead of curated, now we have to pass this one, the search. I'll copy this, I'll paste it here, and after this search we have to pass a query, and we can also pass the per page and etc. So we won't do that. We'll just remove this forward slash from here, because there is no forward slash here. We have to directly pass the query. So I'll just copy this query from here, and here I'll add another query. So let's do one thing. Here I'll write annotation query, and here I'll paste that as query, and here for this string I'll pass query. Okay, so we have added another query. Okay, and the method, let's also change the name to from get wallpapers to search wallpapers. Okay, so these are the changes that we need to make, and we need to also create another class for the call, because as you can see inside the response we have everything is similar actually, but only one thing is changed, that is the total results. So let's do one thing. We will create another model similarly to curated API response. So I'll just copy this I'll just click on this curated API response and press Ctrl C to copy this, and again I'll press Ctrl V to just paste it right here, and I'll just change the name to search API response and click on OK. So here we got this, and now from here we will just add this total results. So I'll copy this total results, which is an integer. As you can see here, it's an integer. So I'll add this here, public int total results, and we can also create a get method for these total results. So I'll just right click here, click on generate, click on getter, and select these total results and click on OK. So that's it. So let's close this, and inside the call we'll pass search API response. Okay, so that's it for the interface. Now we can do the same for the method. So I'll just copy this method once again and paste it under here. So this is the method. I'll change its name to search curated wallpapers, and here for the listener we won't pass the curated response listener, we'll create another listener. So I'll just go into these listeners and I'll right click here, create a new Java class. I'll say this as search response listener, and I'll set this as interface. Okay, and inside this public interface search response listener I'll write void on fetch, and I'll pass search API response. I'll call this as response, and another string message, and similarly I'll do void on error, and I'll pass the string message. Okay, this is the search response listener. Now let's go back to request manager, and I'll change this to search response listener, and here with this string page we'll also pass another value, which is the string query that the user will type on the search view. Okay, so this is the string query, and we'll show posts per page 20, and we'll pass the page number from the main activity. Okay, no issues on that. And now we'll write call wallpaper list search, this one I'll name this as call wallpaper list search, and retrofit create again call wallpaper list search dot class, and then call search API response call, and I'll just copy this to this, and here I'll write search wallpapers. Make sure you change all of this according to me, because if you renamed all of the objects like I did, then you have to follow this, otherwise you will get so many errors in your code. Okay, so here for the search wallpapers, as you can see, we have 3 queries, the query, page, and per page. So inside here we only got 2. So at first for the query we'll pass this string that we get, so let query, and then page, and then per page. Okay, so call.enqueue blah blah blah. Okay, so we have to replace all these keyworded API responses with the search API response. So I'll copy the search API response and I'll paste it here, then here, then here, and then here. Okay, so now all our errors are gone and we got all the responses. Okay, so our task for the request manager is now done. Now we can go to our main activity here, and here we need to implement the search view. So to add the search view, we will go to our okay, so let's create our search view to our action bar, and for this we'll create a menu resource file here inside our res folder. So I'll go to our res folder, right click on it, and create a new Android resource directory, and from the resource type I'll select this to menu and click on OK. So here I got this menu resource file or folder. Now we'll right click on this menu resource folder and create a new menu resource file. I'll set its name to menu and hit enter. So here we got the menu. I have went into the split view. Okay, let me zoom in here, and now we'll go inside this menu tag, and here we'll create a new item, and then I'll set the ID of this item to action underscore search, and then I'll set a title for this menu also. I'll call this as search. Sorry, wrong spelling. Search. Okay, and then we'll also create an icon for that. So for the icon, I'll right click on the drawable, create a new vector asset, go to this clipboard, and we'll search for search. Okay, and we'll select this one, this icon. I'll name this as IC underscore search. I'll keep everything as it is. Click on next and finish. Now for the icon, I'll pass @drawable /IC search. Okay, and then I'll pass the action view class, and we'll cast this to the search view. So I'll write search view, and we'll set this one, the android x.appcompare.widget.search view, this one. Okay, and then we'll write show as action, and the action should be if room, and we'll collapse the action view if there is no room. Okay, let's close this tag. Okay, so here we got our search view or the search menu. Okay, now we have to implement that inside our main activity. So here inside our main activity.java file, I'll go under here, I'll go right here, and here I'll override a method called onCreate options menu, this one, the onCreate options menu. I'll just override that, and here before returning the super, I'll call get menu inflator dot inflate, and here I'll pass the menu file, which is r.menu.menu, and we'll pass the menu from the parameter that we got here. Okay, and then we'll set the menu item. So I'll write menu item, I'll call this as menu item equals menu dot find item, and we'll find this with the ID. So I'll write r dot id dot action search underscore search, this one, and then we'll cast this to our search view. So I'll write search view. I'll call this search view equals menu item dot get action view. Okay, it's showing an error, maybe it's a casting issue. Yes, we'll click on that to cast this to search view. Okay, and now we can set queries and other operations like the query listener to our search view. So I'll at first write search view, this one which we created, search view dot set query hint, and here I'll write type here to search. Okay, and we can also set a onQuery text listener or onQuery text change listener. So I'll write search view dot set onQuery text listener, and I'll create a new search view dot onQuery text listener here. So here we got these two methods, the onQuery text submit and onQuery text change. We won't do anything on the onQuery text change, we'll just work on this onQuery text submit. So here at first we'll change this return false to return true, and before returning this true we'll call our search API. So what I'm going to do here is write manager dot search curated wallpaper, and here at first we have to pass the listener, and then we have to pass the page number and the string query, right? Okay, so let's try to do that also. So we'll create our listener here under this. So here I'll write what is there an issue? Okay, we have to create our listener here. So I'll write private final search response listener. I'll call this as search response listener equals new search response listener, and here inside this on fetch we have to write if response dot get photos dot is empty, and then we'll just show a toast message where the context will be main activity dot this, and for the text we'll show no image found. Found. All right, and then we'll just add return here. Okay, and if there is any image, then we'll call the show data method that we created previously, and for the show data we have to pass the photos object. We have to pass a list of photos. So to get the list of photos we'll write response dot get photos. Okay, and let's do one thing. While calling this we'll show the dialog, so I'll write dialog dot show, and here after the on fetch we'll dismiss the dialog, so dialog dot dismiss. We'll also dismiss that inside the error, so dialog dot dismiss. Okay, and okay, so that's it. And here after this dialog dot dismiss we can show a toast message to show the error. The context will be main activity dot this, and the text will be the message that we got from here. Okay, and here we just need to put a semicolon that will handle the error. Okay, so here we got the listener, the search response listener, so we have to pass this inside our API calling for the search curated wallpaper. So I'll write here as the search response listener, and then we have to pass the what was the second parameter? Second parameter was the page number, and third one was the query. So the page number at first I'll pass is 1, and then for the parameter I'll pass query that the user typed here. Okay, this is the query that we are trying to search, so I'll write query here. Okay, so now what happening here is when the user will type something on the search view and they will press enter or search, then the API will be called for the search keyword wallpapers, and it will search for the specific string that the user typed on the search view. Okay, so that's it. That's the code needed. Now let's try to run our application to see if it's working properly or not. It's installing. Okay, so our app is now installed, and these are the default wallpapers, and We can search for a specific category by clicking on this search icon here. So let's click here and type something to search. Let's type car and click on this search icon here on the keyboard. Loading, and here we got the car images. Let's try something else. Let's try nature and click on the search button. Here we got all the nature images. Okay, so that's it for the video. That's how we can create a simple wallpaper app using the Pixel API. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you guys enjoyed, then please leave a like to this video and subscribe to my channel, because I have more awesome Android projects on my channel. And thank you so much for watching.